Hi, I'm Brooke Bowen. I wanted to talk a little bit about this painting that I just did of Abinadi and King Noah and his priests. And so I was commissioned to do this painting. It is a 5x7, very small painting of Abinadi and King Noah and his priests. And in the very back, you can see Alma. And it was pretty difficult because I wanted to capture this whole thing of, this holiness about Abinadi with this disconcerting look from Noah and his priests as well as Alma. There was a lot to fit into this. And so one of the first things that I did was I went to the scriptures to kind of figure out how I would, what is scripturally relevant to this scene. And so I found in Mosiah chapter 11 verses 9 through 11, it says, talking about Noah, and he also built him a spacious palace and a throne in the midst thereof, all of which was of fine wood, and was ornamented with gold and silver and with precious things. And he also caused that his workmen should work all manner of fine work within the walls of the temple, of fine wood, and of copper, and of brass. And the kings which were set apart for the high priests, and the seats which were set apart for the high priest, which were above all the other seats, he did ornament with pure gold, and he caused the breastwork to be built before them, that they might rest their bodies and their arms upon, while they should speak lying and vain words to his people. So immediately in the composition, I wanted King Noah and his priests to be lifted higher above Alma, but still be able to get most of Alma's body. And so I ended up putting the priests so they were sitting down or kind of leaning over, so their faces were still in the composition, while still being able to get almost a full body of Abinadi. And with that also, it talks about how, the priests and King Noah were ornamented in gold and brass, all these fine things. And so I wanted to add that in. Usually I end up using gold to kind of represent something holy and kind of precious, and so this was the complete opposite. So I wanted to kind of have these contrasts, and so the contrast is that King Noah and his priests are covered in gold ornamentation, sitting on a gold platform essentially, and Abinadi, who had just spent 2 years in the wilderness, is kind of rough around the edges. His hair has grown a little longer. He has the basic essentials for him to survive, while King Noah and his priests are all ornamented, big feather hats, skirts, bands of everything. And also with this kind of contrast, I wanted to make Abinadi with warm colors, and so he ends up standing out more, and I ended up doing King Noah and his priests in very cool colors. So except for Alma in the very back, he starts to get a little warm. It's like he's taking on some of what Abinadi is as he's learning and as he's watching Abinadi. And there's another scripture that I read that I ended up using a lot. It says, "Now it came to pass," in Mosiah 13:5, "and now it came to pass after Abinadi had spoken these words, that the people of King Noah durst not lay their hands upon him. For the Spirit of the Lord was upon him, and his face shone with exceeding luster, even as Moses' did while in the Mount of Sinai, while speaking with the Lord." And so immediately I knew that I wanted to kind of have this glowing halo around Abinadi. I wanted it to be, he was sent there by the Lord. And you could see it in his countenance. And I wanted that to be very clear that he was a prophet and he was speaking the truth, whereas Noah and his priests are being confronted by the truth. And it's very painful for them. They could be very angry about it. So I wanted to just share a little bit of that with you, and I hope you love the painting.